Welcome to another session of Coffee Talk, where we delve a little bit deeper into an article that seems to have gotten my attention and maybe other people's attention from a Morning Brew episode. This time we are talking about Pennsylvania and their new passing of the medical marijuana laws, and I am here with, as I open up my Discord, Mitch the Ripper. Say hello.
Tonight's episode, Guns and Danger.
And Lou.
Hello.
Okay, I hope you guys can hear them all right. If not, I'll have to do some adjustments because it's not a stream of mine without some sort of blooper. So I'll turn them up and see if that works.
Hey, at least Zeus is being bouncy.
Yeah, Zeus is actually being a little more active. I don't have to fire him for being, the comatose news hound on the bed.
We can now call him the Coffee Mutt.
Right. The picture that you're seeing on screen right now is a picture from, I believe, the AP. I could be wrong. No, from an MSN article that we're about to read that shows a Pennsylvania resident as a patient, and that is a medical marijuana license. This has created a little bit of a conflict in Pennsylvania. And let me go ahead and get to that story now so we can read it and comment on it as we go down the list, because this is really, really interesting to read. Let's see here. Let me get this thing done and over with. Where the heck is this? Yay, we can't see it. Okay. Like I said, it's not one of my streams without at least one blooper, and there's the blooper. So.
Yeah, something's always got to be kaflarpy.
Yeah, something's always got to be
Flarpy.
It is
Yes.
a term. It's a term of endearment, especially when it comes to my stuff. Blip. There we go. Ha! I fixed it. Yay.
All we needed was an artificial fart.
All right. So, this was a story I read this morning, or rather did a summary on it this morning, because I like to cover a lot of different topics. So, the whole thing reads, out of the AP. And Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, the federal government says grass and guns don't mix. And that is putting gun owners who use marijuana and the strongly pro-gun rights administration of President Donald Trump in a potentially uncomfortable position. So, in my chat, I am saying a good evening or a good morning, depending on if it's tonight or tomorrow, to Struggling Justice, Mac, Doubting Tommy, James, AR79. Welcome, Mitch Connor, to the live chat. Oh, my hubby Ronan, hello, dear. I'm glad you could make it. A tailed feature with his fucking moo. And
Fucking moo.
Yep. And over on Twitch, I have Mr. Nerdsum. Welcome to Coffee Talk. Pull up a chair and your favorite brew, and let's discuss the news. All right. As gun-loving Pennsylvania becomes the latest state to operate a medical marijuana program, and I'm glitching. Haha. With the first dispensary on track to begin sales next month, authorities are warning patients that federal law bars marijuana users from having guns or ammunition. Quote, they're going to have to make a choice, unquote, said John T. Adams, president of the Pennsylvania District Attorneys Association. They can have their guns or their marijuana, not both. That is the official line, but the reality of how the policy might be enforced in Pennsylvania and other states is a little muddier. That includes the question of whether people who already own guns might have to surrender them, instead of just being prohibited from making new purchases.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, the political...
Do I interject yet?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay. They said it's a violation of federal law.
Yep.
I suspect that federal law is a violation of constitutional law, which trumps federal law.
Yeah.
As I've said before, you know, the bill of, or the Constitution doesn't say that you can't smoke marijuana. It doesn't say that. There's nothing in the Constitution that gives the government authority to dictate what a person can or cannot consume.
In fact, I would argue, like, as far as dictating what you can and cannot do, that is against both constitutional law, and I want to say federal law. But
you take that part that I mentioned there about the federal government not having authority to regulate what we consume as individuals. Take that up against what the Second Amendment says.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that, and then you also have the consumption thing with...
Especially at the end with the shall not be infringed.
Well, yeah, but then you also have... But then I would think people would also say, well, what about the consumption of, say... Granted, you could also say they don't have a say in it, but when people... in health and wellness, when they talk about, like, oh, this is what's in this, and you regulate food based on that.
Yep, you mean a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed.
Yep.
That's what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But what do you mean there about health and safety, Lou?
I'm saying somebody could probably bring up the health and safety of
Bring
food.
up the health and safety issue?
Yeah,
like,
health and safety of, like, food as well as far as consumption goes. I don't know. But then again, that's not the exact same thing as drugs. Of course.
Well, yeah, one is necessary to survive. The other is ostensibly for entertainment purposes.
or especially in this case, with medical marijuana, to keep yourself in a healthy state. Or a functional state.
Yeah.
A functional state, not a healthy state.
Well, it's still, according to the Constitution, the federal government does not have the authority to dictate matters in either case.
Yep.
Enforcing such a law on that basis that they're trying to use would be unconstitutional. It would be a violation of civil rights.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Let me see.
as anyone who's read the U.S. Code, Section 18, subsection 242, knows that there are criminal penalties for anyone depriving a citizen of their civil liberties under color of authority, up to, and in some cases, including the death penalty.
Yep. Max says, basically, in a nutshell, they are thinking those who smoke marijuana do not have the mental state to own firearms. They may be discussing that. I'm going to keep reading it. Welcome, UT33200, and welcome, Numbskull. We are discussing PA's possible conundrum as they have legalized marijuana for medical use, but a federal law states that if they partake in this medical marijuana, they cannot own a gun. So we are discussing that this evening. The story further goes to say the political sensitivity was underscored Friday when Pennsylvania regulators reversed themselves and announced its registry of medical pot patients will not be available, as was previously planned, through the state law enforcement computer network. Phil Groover, a professional auto detailer from Emmaus, who received a state medical marijuana card in mid-December, is weighing what to do with his .22 caliber rifle and a handgun he keeps for home defense. It's a violation of my Second Amendment rights, Groover says. I don't know of any time anyone's been using marijuana and going out and committing acts of violence with a gun. Most of the time, they just sit on their couch and eat pizza.
I'm trying. Okay, I'll say it then. I'm responding to Numbskull, who writes, but then wouldn't the restrictions in firearms to felons and mental patients be illegal? No, not necessarily. But there is a thing called due process, and in order to deprive a citizen of their rights, due process must be satisfied.
And then Green Badger says this argument is also going on in Hawaii. The exact same argument, or
I saw that when I was trying to find the federal law that bars people from owning guns when they're legally using marijuana. I wasn't able to find it before I started.
Oh, that's the other thing. We were talking about this earlier, that I just wanted to throw out there, see what the people in the chat thought about this. When it comes to the media reporting on such things, I'm getting a little tired of them. Not just the media, but when someone who's representing a governing body as well has something to say on this stuff, and they say, like in this article, it just says it's a violation of federal law, but they don't indicate which federal law. If you can't tell me what the law is, you damn well shouldn't be enforcing it, or claiming. Not enforcing, that was the wrong word. You shouldn't be making that claim.
UT33200 says, no opinion, but I am a felon. As an American, should I have the right to own a firearm? Mitch?
Okay. I read what Ronan wrote, and I just kind of said that, Ronan.
Yeah.
But we're going in many directions for a second there, too.
We've got maybe a 15 to 20 second delay. So what they're writing is something we've already discussed.
Anyway, no opinion, but I am a felon. As an American, should I have the right to own a firearm? Well, I have to wonder about that a little bit, and because I don't know necessarily. I don't know what the right way to go is there, because on the one hand, I'm assuming, since you're commenting here, that you've quote unquote paid your debt to society.
Yep.
And if one has paid their debt to society, that sort of implies a clean slate in a way, but you can't ignore the past either. Well, and the nature of the felony, I think, should play a role in that decision as well.
Yeah, I was about to say, you would have to look at what kind of felon you are in that circumstance. I would think that, if you were tried for murder, and if your crime was going into a mall and shooting up a mall, then I would say probably not a gun right away.
Yeah, we may have to
Maybe
look
some
up,
other form of self-defense, like
Yeah.
a taser or something, but not a gun.
we may have to look up those limitations on, the voting and the stuff, and what convictions take away which rights as a citizen, because I was doing some searches, but I didn't search deep enough, so I couldn't exactly find everything. But the sources that I could find are in the description below, and also in the research channel here on the Discord.
I mean, honestly, voting is a nonviolent act, unless you ask the mental left. But basically, it's a nonviolent act. I could see having your right to vote being taken away while you're in jail. Again, taking into account what kind of crime has taken place, because that does make a difference.
Yeah.
But if it's like felony tax evasion and you serve 5 years, I don't see where that would justify removing someone's right to vote.
Yeah. Is it state laws allow?
Or on a gun.
No, that is true. That is true. I would say depending on the felony, whether or not you'd be able to own a gun.
Fair.
Right.
If you committed armed robbery or murder in the process of an armed robbery, then, there's that area where I wouldn't want the felon to have a gun even after paying his debt to society.
Exactly, because you better safe than sorry, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
Well, see, now, okay, I'm looking at U2 33200's last one. Nonviolent and paid dues, banned for life, charges mostly weed related. Now, if we come to the conclusion as a nation that marijuana is perfectly lovely, does that exonerate people who have been convicted in the past?
I believe.
Is there some sort of restitution? I mean, I'm certainly not monetary, because I bet that'll never happen. But should their rights that have been stripped be reapplied?
I think yes. But, we do not legislate. All right.
Yeah, maybe we should.
Maybe we should. All right, it continues to say, state laws allowing medical or, more recently, recreational use of pot have long been at odds with the federal prohibition on gun ownership by those using marijuana. But the government has traditionally taken a hands-off approach. Since 2014, Congress has forbidden the Department of Justice from spending money to prosecute people who grow, sell, and use medical pot. The picture has become murkier under Trump, a Republican whose Attorney General Jeff Sessions has long denounced the drug. Sessions recently rescinded a Barack Obama-era policy that was differential to states' permissive marijuana laws. I'm going to read that story next. Let's see. Now, federal prosecutors in states that allow drug sales must decide whether to crack down on the marijuana trade. It's not clear what impact the new policy will have on gun owners who use cannabis as medicine, or even how many people fit the bill. Nor is it clear whether any people who use legally obtained medical marijuana have been prosecuted for owning a gun, although the existence of medical marijuana registries in some states, including Pennsylvania, has some patients concerned.
As well it should.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same reason that that I, for example, do not want firearms registered. It's nobody's business but my own what I decide to buy. It's a privacy issue.
Yep, that is true.
Unless you're breaking the law, in which case I think that.
Well, if you're breaking the law, then if you are breaking the law, then there's a different thing that happens. I'm talking just in average, everyday, going about your business.
Exactly.
It's nobody's business if I buy number 2 pencils or number 1.6 pencils. It's just nobody's damn business. In fact, constitutionally speaking, the Constitution is very specific about what the Census Bureau may ask a citizen as far as the census. And I believe it's, I think it boils down to address and number of people living at that address.
Probably.
But it's a very, very short list of things they can ask.
Yeah. More than 800,000 guns are sold or transferred in Pennsylvania annually, and more than 10,000 people in the state have signed up for medical marijuana. The registry change on Friday makes it much less likely the state's medical marijuana users will be flagged when going through a federal gun sales background check. A spokeswoman for Dave Freed, the new U.S. attorney in Harrisburg, said only that criminal investigations and prosecutions, quote, will be based on a fair and transparent intensive inquiry of individual cases. State police said it's up to prosecutors to decide when to bring a case. Yeah. So in other words, they're not going to go, that tells me that they're not going to go all gung-ho and start, going after all these people and institutions and stuff now that Sessions said, go get them, boys. Because this is really murky waters. They've really muddied the waters here. They have really, really muddied them a lot.
Well, it's also the federal government doesn't have authority in cases like this unless there is a crossing of state lines.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, the Justice Department's Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives has left no doubt where it stands. Last year, the ATF spelled out the marijuana prohibition in boldface type on gun purchase forms. Quote, any person who uses or is addicted to marijuana, regardless of whether his or her state has passed legislation authorizing marijuana use for medical purposes, ... is prohibited by federal law from possessing firearms or ammunition, unquote. ATF,
What's the law?
ATF
Quote the law.
I know. We gotta find it.
If the ATF is going to put that horse shit on a form, then they better damn well quote the law. Tell me which law it is. Give me the number.
I found an article that might lead us to it, and that's a little later on in the show. I think I may have found it. ATF spokeswoman Janice L. Kemp said in an email to the Associated Press. Hello, Callie and Jay Willie, and how are you guys doing? Green Badger, and has history shown time and time again gun registrations lead to gun confiscations?
Lopez.
Mitch Connor says, what can Jeff Sessions do in his power about legal weed? Nothing at this point.
If it doesn't meet the criteria for federal jurisdiction, I'd say nothing.
Yep. All right. I hope I'm coming out a little better. Ha. I've got it up on 100 now, so let's see if this works any better for you guys. Hopefully you can hear me a little bit better. I hearded you. I'm trying to fibus it. All right. Let me see here. Scroll this up. A spokeswoman for the Justice Department referred questions about medical marijuana and guns enforcement to local federal prosecutors in a recent memo from Sessions that does not specifically address the issue. In Ohio, which has authorized a medical marijuana program, the Office of the U.S. Attorney for the northern part of the state, Justin Herdman, has said Sessions' guidance won't change his case-by-case approach. The gun ownership ban has withstood at least one legal challenge. An appeals court in San Francisco, rejecting a challenge on Second Amendment grounds, said in 2016 that Congress reasonably concluded marijuana and other drugs raise the risk of unpredictable behavior. Meanwhile, some state and local officials, particularly in law enforcement, have sought to crack down. William Bryson, chairman of the Delaware Police Chiefs Council, told the state lawmakers in December that people who use marijuana for medical or recreational purposes should be required to have a designation on their driver's licenses. That would make it easier, he said, for police to enforce the ban. Let me see here. And last month, the police chief in Hawaii, here comes a little hint to the Hawaii story, publicized and then quickly rescinded a directive that medical marijuana patients had to give up their handguns. 2 people turned in their weapons. But marijuana activists predict a backlash should federal prosecutors begin going after gun owners who use legally obtained medical marijuana. The issue has been largely theoretical, but there would be quick pushback if the federal government took a more aggressive stance, said Paul Armentano, deputy director of the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. Between 1998 and 2014, nearly 100,000 prospective gun purchasers went home empty-handed because they were flagged as using illegal drugs, according to the ATF, but the agency could not say how many of those used medical or recreational marijuana. Loophole in the negative direction, I would say. You want to add anything here, Mitch?
I'm kind of reading the chat while listening to you at the same time, and I'm getting my wires crossed. But no, I'm still pretty much standing by my statement. Ronan brought up that marijuana is federally recognized as a Schedule 1 narcotic.
No, they want to recognize it as it, but let me see.
No, I think it is federally recognized as a Schedule 1, which is like the top of the icky list, basically. It's head honcho of things what are bad for you.
And
which is,
they don't
I'm sorry, but that's a lie.
They don't want to do that for opioids?
Opioids are already Schedule 1, I believe.
Yeah, opioids are Schedule 1.
Okay, because I was going to say, if they haven't done that for opioids, what are they doing?
But it's, I find its status as Schedule 1 to be unreasonable and unjustifiable.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Can I tell a story of a friend regarding medical marijuana?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so I'm not gonna say who this friend is, because yeah, I'm no longer friends with them really, but meh. They came from a place where it was legalized to have medical marijuana, and then they moved to a state where it was more blurry. It was a case-by-case basis. And I remember when she had to go off of her medication for an extended period of time for a job interview. And during that extended period of time, it was for her anxiety. So she was irritable. She was quicker to jump onto extremes when coming to conclusions to something. If she wasn't on her medicine, basically, she was a lot more extreme than she would normally be. And it was not a good extreme. So I would say that for a good amount of cases, there's good reason that people have this for medicine, and it's not just for pleasure.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not.
I'm
it's
the
not
first to agree with that.
That just makes you all crazy and loopy.
No.
It relaxes you most of the time if you do it in moderation.
It says here, Schedule 1 drugs, substances, or chemicals are defined as drugs with no currently accepted medical use and a high potential for abuse. Some examples of Schedule 1 drugs are heroin, lysergic acid dithylamide, LSD, marijuana, otherwise known as cannabis, ecstasy, because I am not going to try and pronounce that chemical name, methaqualone, and peyote. Yes, people, peyote is a Schedule 1.
Who is scheduling? Who is doing this? Who is putting in these regulations that are making it this way?
This is
someone.
DEA.
It's someone who figures out which drugs are the most popular and which charges can they file to get the state more money.
Yeah, it's the DEA basically, and yeah,
basically it's a popularity contest.
Yeah, marijuana should not be a Schedule 1. It does have medical uses. I'm sorry.
I mean, they should be scheduled by effect.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah.
And though I've known many people who smoke marijuana regularly who are fucking imbeciles. I mean, I'm talking. It's not the drug; it's doing that all by itself. I mean, there's obviously the individual is involved.
Yeah.
It's not the marijuana that makes them an imbecile. They're an imbecile who smokes marijuana.
Yeah.
And they're also the ones that get all the press, aren't they?
Hello, Trina May. Yeah, they are. They're the idiots are the ones that get all the press and make it harder for those that, use it responsibly.
Genuinely use it and need it in some cases. Because people
do
need it.
I'm not. Yeah, that's what it is, but I'm not going to pronounce that because I can't.
Wait, what?
Methylene dioxymethamphetamine, I guess.
Methylene
methamphetamine.
Thank you, because I know I was putting accents on wrong syllables.
Let me try it again. Methylene methylene dioxymethamphetamine.
Okay, thank you, because I know I was putting the accents on the wrong syllables. Okay, the story goes on.
It makes you go crazy.
It
makes
does.
you go crazy.
Those long words. And hugs for Trina Me. The story goes on to say Dean Hezin, an Urbana, Illinois businessman who helps broker online gun purchases, said a 75-year-old client with a medical marijuana card was turned down when his state firearm owner identification card was run through the federal background check system. He's got a collection of guns at home, Hazen said, and he's a model citizen. Even before his administration took the medical marijuana registry off the Pennsylvania law enforcement computer network, Government Tom Wolf, a Democrat, sought to assure people the state has no plans to take their guns. And
Bullshit.
Last week, yeah. And last week, even Zeus disagrees.
Totally.
State House Republican leader Dave Reed urged residents to call their congressional mommy's working representative and urge them to make gun ownership legal for medical marijuana card holders. Just like a toddler.
Zeus, I hope you know your dad can hear you.
Hey,
Hey,
evil
Gunny, how you doing?
Kim Stolfer, head of the Pennsylvania organization Firearms Owners Against Crime, pointed out that people who drink heavily or use potent but legal drugs such as opioids or antidepressants can still own a gun. You have people that are advancing up in age that need medical marijuana and might have, say, 50 firearms and just realized they sacrificed all of those, Stolfer said. Where are they going to turn them in and how are they going to get rid of them? I wouldn't let go of my gun.
Hell no. Come get them, you want them so bad.
Yeah, but I mean, the person, Kim does raise a point. You know, people
fucking
who
work
drink
for it.
heavily or use potent but legal drugs such as opioids and antidepressants can still own a gun, but you're going to take them away from marijuana users?
Exactly.
How does that make any sense?
Yeah, you can own a gun
Opioids
on
especially.
fucking...
Opioids are absolutely horrifying drugs,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
You could have the oxycodone and own a firearm but not drive a forklift. I mean, come on.
Right.
Let's be consistent at least. You know, if we're going to be reaching beyond the boundaries established by the Constitution, then at least be consistent about it.
Yeah. What, you want the government to be consistent? Mitch!
Come on, man!
Seriously, dude. We all want the government to be consistent, but for them to actually be consistent, I don't think that's going to happen.
No, I actually want them. I actually just want them to follow the law as established in the Constitution.
Yeah.
We all know that's not going to happen because
you don't get to have my name on a list of gun owners.
Yeah.
You know, you don't get to have my name on a list of people who might want to use the marijuana.
The marijuanas.
The marijuanas.
Yep.
That's right.
Yep. The next story is back from January 4th, and this is the story that they alluded to in our previous story. Sessions terminates U.S. policy that let legal pot flourish. Washington, AP. The Trump administration threw the burgeoning movement to legalize marijuana into uncertainty Thursday as it lifted an Obama-era policy that kept federal authorities from cracking down on the pot trade in states where the drug is legal. Attorney General Jeff Sessions will now leave it up to federal prosecutors to decide what to do when state rules collide with federal drug law. Sessions' actions, just 3 days after legislation law went into effect in California, threatened the future of the young industry, created confusion in states where the drug is legal, and outraged both marijuana advocates and some members of Congress, including Sessions' fellow Republicans. Many conservatives are wary of what they see as a federal intrusion in areas they believe must be left to the states. Republican Senator Cory Gardner, who represents Colorado, one of the 8 states that have legalized marijuana for recreational use, said the change contradicts a pledge Sessions made to him before being confirmed as Attorney General. Gardner promised to push legislation to protect marijuana sales, saying he was prepared to take all steps necessary to fight the change, including holding up the confirmation of Justice Department nominees. Another Republican Senator, Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, called the announcement disruptive and regrettable. Jay Willie, we don't have gun rights in the EU, that's why we can't defend ourselves from colonization. Never give up your gun rights. It could very well mean the end of you. Oh, we're not going to give up our guns.
Hell no.
Absolutely not. That's the one thing that everybody makes jokes about. If we gave that up, what would we have?
I know, right?
Food lines.
Yeah.
Toilet paper lines.
Americans and the guns, man.
Yep.
Yeah, everyone likes to make fun of it.
Yep.
About, you know, America and the guns. But I'll tell you what.
Look at half of Europe right now.
You know, it's like I said, America's military is the first line of defense.
Mm-hmm.
You get inland, you're fucked.
Yeah.
It's that simple. We have some scary people here.
Oh, yeah.
We do have scary people here. I will freely admit that we have scary people
Especially
here.
when you're in the middle of the woods and you hear banjos.
Well, that or you go down to wherever the heck Optimus is at.
And that's the beginning of your bad day if you decide to invade.
Yeah.
What, when you run into Optimus or when you go into the woods and you hear a banjo?
Yes. I just want to make it perfectly clear to anyone who has any illusions about invading the United States. You're a moron. You're a complete idiot. We have serial killers in this country that not just dismember and bury bodies, they wind up in freezers, and people are eating them. And you know what you never find? The dicks.
Yeah. Oh, God, here we go.
You try to invade this country, you run into one of our more
Oh, my God.
slightly imbalanced people, you are fucked. And not in the fun way that comes with a kiss first.
There's a reason we have Mitch in here.
Yes. Colorado's U.S. Attorney Bob Troyer said his office won't change its approach to prosecution despite Sessions' guidance. Prosecutors there have always focused on marijuana crimes that create the greatest safety threats and will continue to be guided by that, Troyer said.
Second line of defense is street gangs.
the largely...
Then you got the mafia. I mean,
He's on a roll.
Yeah, seriously.
Well,
God
to be
help you
fair-
if you go into Texas.
Well, to be fair, in where I'm from, literally one of the apparent gang symbols in my town is just hanging a small pair of shoes that are tied together by the laces over just like a electricity line.
Oh, your state's
down the
not the only
street.
one that does that. I've seen
Well,
that here in
that's
Georgia.
that happens all over the place. You know, some gang probably decided, hey, you know, we need better marketing. Let's get the guys together and have a board meeting and figure out a way to convince people that we're bigger than we actually are. Let's take some commonly
that is
viewed
pretty
thing
much
and
the
turn it into our
definition
symbol.
That is pretty much the definition of what that looks like to me.
That's all it is. You know, it's just a gang using corporate think
Ooh, scary.
Yeah.
to up their value in the market.
Yep. UT
Scary game.
33200. Didn't the Republican Party used to have a rep for being against prohibition and big government taking states' rights?
Yeah, that went away a long time ago.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the story goes on to say the largely hands-off approach to marijuana enforcement set forth by Barack Obama's Justice Department allowed the pot business to flourish into a sophisticated multi-million-dollar industry that helps fund some state government programs. What happens now is in doubt. In deciding which marijuana activities to prosecute under these laws, with the department's finite resources, prosecutors should follow the well-established principles that govern all federal prosecutions, considering the seriousness of a crime and its impact on the community, Sessions told prosecutors in a one-page memo. While Sessions, a longtime marijuana foe, has been carrying out a Justice Department agenda that follows Trump's top priorities on such issues as immigrations and opioids, this change reflects his own concerns. He railed against marijuana as an Alabama senator and has assailed it as comparable to heroin, which it is not. Trump, as a candidate, said pot should be left up to the states, but his personal views on marijuana remain largely unknown. It's not clear how the change might affect states where marijuana is legal for medical purposes. A congressional amendment blocks the Justice Department from interfering with medical marijuana programs in states where it is allowed. Justice officials said they would follow the law, but would not preclude the possibility of medical marijuana-related prosecutions. Officials wouldn't say whether federal prosecutors would target marijuana shops and legal growers, nor would they speculate on whether pot prosecutions would increase. They denied the timing was connected to the opening of California sales, which are projected to bring in $1 billion annually in tax revenue within several years. And the officials said Thursday's actions might not be the only step toward greater marijuana enforcement. The department has the authority to sue states on the grounds that state laws regulating pot are unconstitutional and preempted by federal law. Yeah, right. Okay, yeah.
Wait, say that again?
The last part?
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
The department has the authority to sue states on the grounds that state laws regulating pot are unconstitutional, preempted by federal law.
Oh, geez.
Oh, no. Sorry, wrong. Read the 9th and 10th Amendments to the Bill of Rights and the U.S. Constitution, you stupid dipshit.
I was about to say,
9 and 10?
Tell you what, Jared, I'll fucking do it for you.
Here we go.
God, these people.
Okay,
9.
Fuck
9.
off.
The enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. Amendment 10. The powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by to the states, are reserved to the states respectively or to the people.
2 fucking sentences. Learn to goddamn read, you idiots.
And Zeus
Our
seconds that remark.
our government needs a fucking mental enema.
It does. Zeus wants
I mean,
to play.
Christ, it's like when Reagan was shot. You had the God, what the asshole that ran the Senate? I forget who it was. But he claimed he was next in the order of succession before the vice president. I mean, what a dick.
Yeah.
Fuck you, dude.
well,
Learn your fucking job. Learn your place.
Yeah,
Federal government needs to learn its place.
it does. It's losing the narrative and it's losing
it's
its
not-
place.
It's
You
not the
wouldn't-
top of the food chain.
you want to know what I thought the entire time that Maddie was reading that? Every single time Trump came up, inside my head I was going, Trump, 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 Trump.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh, Ronan makes a great point. All that money for California just so they can shelter all those illegals.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it was Newt, Gunny.
Well, no, Newt Gingrich is here in Georgia. Unfortunately, that's another one. Yeah, the one that got me going, yeah, right, was they denied the timing was connected to the opening of California sales, which are projected to bring in $1 billion annually in tax revenue within several years. Like, yeah, okay, you're trying to tell me that wasn't timed that way? Sure.
Why is Zeus showing us his ass?
Because he wants me to play fetch with him in the middle of a live stream.
Strange animal.
You have the worst timing ever.
He's mooning you because you're not saying enough, Mitch.
Asked about the change, White House spokesman Sarah Sanders said only that Trump's top priority is enforcing federal law, and that is regardless of what the topic is, whether it's marijuana or whether it's immigration. The Obama administration said in 2013 announced it would not stand in the way of states that legalize marijuana, so long as officials acted to keep it from migrating to places where it remained outlawed and to keep it out of the hands of criminal gangs and children. That memo, written by then Deputy Attorney General James M. Cole, had cleared up some of the uncertainty of how the federal government would respond as states begin allowing sales for recreational and medical purposes. But the Sessions Justice Department believed the Cole created a safe harbor for marijuana by allowing states to flout federal law. Justice Department officials said Sessions in his memo called the Obama guidance unnecessary.
Asked and answered. We already covered that. We proved him wrong.
You
know, I don't like President Obama, but I think he was kind of right in that case.
Yeah.
In that one instance, he did something right, I think.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Gunny in the chat said, Newt, get him high.
Oh my God. We love our
That
Gunny.
would be a fun trip.
I find myself agreeing with Jay Willie again. Governments, Jay Willie writes, governments only exist to protect its citizens from other governments and invading forces. So a government that fails to live up to these standards is illegitimate.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I mean, here, certainly not protecting us from invading forces, are they?
Nope.
I mean, we do have someone trying. We do have someone trying to.
They're trying to protect us from ourselves, which is something we don't need unless you're under like a legal age where you know what the heck is going on, you know how to make informed decisions,
Yeah.
like a proper adult. You can do things yourself, and they don't realize that, and they decide to. And sadly, there's people who don't realize that they are informed adults, and they need to start making those kinds of decisions by themselves instead of letting the media and the government tell them what to do like little mindless sheep.
Exactly, and I got 2 words for you to back that up. Tide Pods.
Yeah, no shit.
You know, because they're not going to outlaw the Tide Pods, are they?
No.
No.
Fuck no. Yeah, but you know what? Someone's going to die eventually. And good. That person who's dumb enough to eat a Tide Pod and die, we probably don't want that person reproducing in the first place.
I was gonna say you want them out of the gene pool.
Yeah.
Most definitely.
If you're that, why
they could
would you
best
eat a Tide Pod?
they
though?
could best serve as some manner of fertilizer. Let them decompose in a field somewhere, and maybe we'll get an apple tree out of it, and it could be their way of telling the rest of the world, "Hey, eat me."
Yeah. It's Ronan. It's natural selection. I completely agree. We just need to take all the safety labels off of everything and let nature sort itself out from this point on.
Oh dear Lord!
All right, he is
I
someone.
mean, go on. Sorry,
Keep going.
I'm gonna.
Go.
Where are the fucking parents with the Tide Pods, for fuck's sake? I mean, this is what happens when you're not allowed to wash your kid's mouth out with soap.
Mind controlled by the government is where the parents are.
Yes, exactly. You're not allowed to discipline your kids because if you fart in the wrong direction, then all of a sudden, here comes CPS. It's government out of control.
Speaking
And
of out of
therefore,
control,
since the parents can't discipline their kids, then by God, you can't tell your kid, "Hey, don't eat that; it might kill you." So therefore, what happens?
oh, we're
Next
talking.
thing you know, the kids are out there eating wolfsbane and fucking ass blossom. Pretty soon. Seriously, let's make ass blossom the next thing. We'll have I'll doctor up a pair of my underwear with some chocolate in the ass crack section. I'll buy a new pair just to do it right. And I'll get on there and this is the new YouTube ass blossom challenge. Lick, 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 lick. Well, then I'll nominate 3 people, and if they don't do it, they have to give me $100.
Okay, I'm dead.
For fuck's sake.
Okay, so we're responsible adults and we are talking about this issue, but we cracked up at that.
We are. Oh my God. Oh. All right.
Why won't Mitch spread his seed to create a better future? It's not my seed that I would have to spread, it's my brain. Because it's a weird place, and sometimes you need a weird outlook to discern bullshit from reality.
I'm smiling too much.
All right.
Lou's gonna have an episode. I think I finished that rant.
Yeah, okay.
Put 2 more paragraphs in and I'll have something else.
that's I'm going.
Oh, dear.
He has some law enforcement officials in states such as Colorado blame legislation for a number of problems, including drug traffickers who have taken advantage to illegally grow and ship the drug across state lines, where it can sell for much more. Marijuana advocates argue those concerns are overblown and contend legalizing the drug reduces crime by eliminating the need for a black market. They quickly condemn Sessions' move as a return to outdated drug war policies that unduly affected minorities. Sessions wants to maintain a system that has led to tremendous injustice and that has wasted federal resources on a huge scale, said Maria Farland Sanchez Moreno, executive director of the Drug Policy Alliance. If Sessions thinks that makes sense in terms of prosecutorial priorities, he is in a very bizarre ideological state or a deeply problematic one. Ding, 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 ding.
Here we
buzzword.
go.
Ding, ding, ding. Buzzword. But the decision was a win for marijuana opponents who had been urging Sessions to take action.
I got tired of typing.
Oh boy.
Hey, babe.
Hi, Ronan.
Hi, Mitch. I was trying to type to you earlier. The whole thing with it being a Schedule 1, that's highly debatable.
Yeah, right
It's
now
gonna
it's
be
listed
on there.
as a scheduled one, but I think they're actually...
As long as it's listed as a Schedule 1, unfortunately, those laws are pretty firm. Should it be removed from that list? Absolutely. It should be down there and regulated the same as alcohol.
Yeah, it's like Schedule 35.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yes. I mean, it's really not that... It's pretty much a depressant. People use it as a painkiller. Some people need help having an appetite.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh yeah,
it's
got a lot of uses.
It's got a lot of uses, and unfortunately, however, and you know how rigid the laws are, because when they write them so fucking rigid that it's nearly impossible to get them changed.
Yeah.
But
yeah, that's the one place I think the founders fucked up. Is they should have had an established methodology for eliminating law.
Yeah. Without the let's face it, it's a three-ring circus when they're trying to overturn something.
Yes, it is.
But you know, California's just going to use this as a cash cow and everything to further fund their sanctuary cities. That's all.
Good. That means we can cut off even more federal funding. I hope.
It's my internet son.
To be honest with you.
Hey, Thraxy.
Hey,
you know what? Let's take it a bit further. Let's let California have their way a bit. We can build the wall, but not on the California border with Mexico.
Moi.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll just build it up. We could build the wall though across the border between California and everybody else.
Yeah. How about that?
Yeah.
All right.
Lopez.
Yep. The story goes on to say there is no more safe haven with regard to the federal government and marijuana, but it's also the beginning of a story and not the end, said Kevin Sabet, president and CEO of Smart Approaches to Marijuana, who was among several anti-marijuana advocates who met with Sessions last month. This is a victory. It's going to dry up a lot of the institutional investment that has gone toward marijuana in the last 5 years. May I say that the pro-marijuana people in the industry are trying to get it regulated to where when they open a business, they can actually go toward financial institutions. They can't do that now. All of their stuff has to be done by cash.
No, it's like anything that's FDIC insured, for example, would throw up a red flag.
Exactly.
Anything linked to something at the federal level will throw up that red flag. They have to do everything in cash.
Yep. Completely. Yet confusion. Go ahead.
The problem with doing everything in cash and everything is there's no way to track how everything's going, where the money is being sent.
Well, not only that, but that you see a big,
you don't know where the product's going and the individual that the product's being sold to. We don't even know. It's hard to keep track of is this being sold to a minor.
Well, not only that, but you see an armored vehicle leave dispensary, you know who to hit.
Yeah.
You have a cue in the chat, Mitch.
Uh-oh.
What?
Fuckwad.
I know. I already saw it. Lopez.
Lopez.
Moped.
Moose cow.
Mopeds.
Is this gonna go back and forth now?
No.
Yes.
Yeah.
No.
Woo!
Yet confusion remains. Jane Stinson, part owner of the retail marijuana shop Enlightened Alaska in Anchorage, called Thursday's action confusing and worried that it could harm her business. The change, she said, can have so many ripple effects we just don't know. The change reflects yet another way in which Sessions, who served as a federal prosecutor at the height of the drug war in Mobile, Alabama, has reversed more lenient Obama-era criminal justice policies, while his Democratic predecessor Eric Holder told federal prosecutors to avoid seeking long mandatory minimum sentences when charging lower-level drug offenders, for example. Sessions issued an order demanding the opposite, telling them to pursue the most serious charges possible against most suspects. A task force Sessions convened to study pot policy made no recommendations for upending the legal industry, but instead encouraged justice officials to keep reviewing the Obama administration's more hands-off approach, something Sessions promised to do. So, that is that proclamation.
Again, on the marijuana thing, Jesus Christ, I don't get it. I don't get why all these people, and I've run into a lot of them, the people who use marijuana, who are like, who've wrapped themselves in the culture that surrounds marijuana. I've never heard one of them argue on constitutional grounds. The closest they ever come is, man, the Constitution was written on hemp, as if that's a fucking argument. It's a non sequitur at best.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, you people in the marijuana culture. I'm not talking people who smoke the stuff. I'm talking people who giggle at 420, who have to have a fucking marijuana leaf on every piece of clothing they own. These people. Get your head in the fucking game for a minute. Read the Constitution, find out why these laws against it are unconstitutional, and argue on that basis.
Yeah.
You know, be serious about it for a second. Don't just sit there on your couch with your fucking Dorito dust and hope for a change in the world.
You keep wanting to bring the constitutionality of the laws.
Yes.
And into, okay, why is it unconstitutional for that law to exist?
Because the federal government does not have authority to mandate what we can and cannot consume as individuals.
But they can mandate what is legal and illegal and harmful substances, correct?
Yes. However,
it was deemed a harmful substance. This is why the law exists. This is why they can get around it. You have to find a reason to say it's not a harmful substance.
the law was written illegally. As indicated by what Maddy had read in the 9th and 10th Amendments. The federal government does not have the authority to write that law.
How many times has the 9th and 10th Amendment and everything been amended itself, however?
They haven't been.
So there's no corresponding amendments later on down the line that modified it.
I don't believe so, no. I'm going to look.
I'm about to say, you'd have to look because I'm on my phone. I can't.
No, on a phone, you're man, it sucks to read anything on a phone.
Yeah,
Let me
it does.
see here.
Okay, the CARER Act, or the act that I have up on the screen right now, I'm going to go ahead and read it while Mitch is looking that up. I can't... I keep saying back to this bill, but you're not giving me any text that you had before. Okay, this is the Careers Act of 2015, and for some strange reason they're not letting me see the whole bill, which is pissing me off, because it was letting me see the bill before, but now I can't see it. Oh, hush.
That's my love. I'm bringing up counterpoints for you, Mitch, and everything, because, these are probably the arguments that have been going back and forth.
Yep. Well, I'm up to the 15th Amendment now. And I'm continuing. I'm reading. And keep going.
Yeah.
I'm
trying to... I have no idea how many amendments there even are anymore. Good God.
Yeah.
28, I believe.
In the body
That's
of the
not too
bill, it says, the Compassionate Access, Research, Expansion, and Respect States Act of 2015, or the Carers Act of 2015. Introduced in the Senate March 10th, 2015, amends the Controlled Substances Act to provide that control and enforcement of provisions such as act relating to marijuana shall not apply to any person acting in compliance with the state law relating to the production, possession, distribution, dispensation, administration, laboratory testing, or delivery of medical marijuana. And I'm stressing that for a particular reason. Transfers marijuana from Schedule 1 to Schedule 2 of the CSA, excludes cannabidiol from the definition of marijuana, and defines it separately as a substance, cannabidiol, as derived from marijuana or the synthetic formulation that contains not greater than 0.3% delta-9 tetrahydrocannabinol on a dry weight basis. Deems marijuana that is grown or processed for purposes of making cannabinol. I hope you guys appreciate my mispronunciation of this shit, because this
Absolutely.
is not easy. Cannabidiol in accordance with state law to meet such concentration limitations unless the Attorney General determines that state law is not reasonably calculated to comply with such definition. Okay. It says medical marijuana. Nowhere in this act does it say recreational. Nowhere in this act does it exempt prosecution from recreational marijuana within legal use. just medical. It stipulates medical.
I was reading. What? Never mind.
Golly.
It's the act stipulates medical marijuana only. The manufacture,
In what-
distribution, in the exemption of it being prosecuted.
Okay. So medical marijuana's production and distribution is exempt from prosecution. Is that what it's saying?
Yes, but a lot of these people that have legalized, that are living in states with legalized recreational marijuana, are trying to say that this act covers it as well, which it does not.
It does not. But Hellbound brought up a good point. Said that I just think the whole marijuana legality is similar to prohibition, and it really is.
It is.
Yes, it is.
And look what happened there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it needs to go. The prohibition of marijuana just needs to go. But you know, I am a
Jacob.
constitutionalist, so I say the prohibition on all the drugs need to go.
What
You know,
good
you
has
can't-
that?
You can't legislate personal responsibility
Well,
into being. You know,
Well-
people have to learn that for themselves.
I do think that prohibition in general, like in any sense, is like it doesn't work. You can try, but it doesn't work. Clearly, from the 1920s, we should have gotten that. Clearly, we haven't gotten that.
Plus,
But I
here's
agree
what-
with
here's
Ronan.
how-
You do need to regulate some things on drugs.
Some things, yes.
The only thing is, will people listen to those regulations?
well, we still get people getting pulled over for drinking and driving, don't we?
Exactly.
They still get
The point, you
prosecuted.
can try and regulate it.
You're always
You
going to
do
have
the same
people that
thing.
break the
Should
law.
regulate it.
But you're talking about also committing an act which is highly dangerous to the public safety of those around you.
What, like a drunk guy losing his temper?
Yeah.
We
Unfortunately,
seem to have it.
Disagree.
I mean,
I've seen drunk guys lose their temper and everything, pull out a knife, start cutting people, pull out
Yeah.
a gun and shoot somebody. I
that's
mean-
exactly my point. I mean,
Mickey,
don't
you
have-
you ever had to fight somebody that was on PCP?
no, I'm
Oh
agreeing.
dear
with you.
Lord!
No, the people on PCP, they're on a whole different level.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They really are.
Shooting Dilaudid is the same problem and everything. I remember I worked in bars for a long time.
Oh, I know that.
I've seen the ugly that the public can do doing legal shit.
Hellbound,
And
my
illegal
dog is
shit.
barking because he thinks I'm ignoring him. He wants to play fetch.
Yeah, he's being
Zeus
pay
is still a
attention to me.
puppy.
Yes.
Yeah, pretty much. He's a big puppy, but he is a puppy.
But
Yeah, right.
my point is, we cannot prosecute before a crime is committed. That's just
No.
not.
No, there has to be a crime.
And a lot of these laws, I think, are trying to do that.
Prevention. Yeah, a lot of it's
Yeah.
prevention and everything. But
If the prevention part worked, it would be great, because the prevention's not working. We have an opioid epidemic
there's
where I
no
live now.
punishment, Nick. Bitch, there's no punishment.
Oh, I know that.
Do you think these guys going to these dorm rooms are being punished?
Oh, fuck no.
That's not punishment. That's not punishment.
No, I'd be happy if it was punishment, to be honest. I mean, if you're irresponsible, you shoot up whatever, and you go for a drive and wind up killing a family of 4, then by God, that person needs to be punished, and they need to be rehabilitated.
I remember there was two.
Because what's going to happen is they're going to go to jail, and they're going to be given methadone,
Yeah, I remember there was a car crash.
and they're
that
just going to be
killed-
left to sit.
Oh yeah, let's
That-
give them another Schedule 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember there was a car crash in drunk driving that was a drunk driver that resulted in killing two college kids. Two college kids, one from where I'm from and another from I want to say it was Wisconsin actually. And I don't know if I ever heard the penalty for that person who killed both of those boys who still had their lives ahead of them.
Yeah.
That's because they probably settled it out and everything. They got a slap on the wrist and they were turned loose.
Yeah.
No kidding.
Because he felt bad about it.
Yeah. Okay. January 3rd. This is from 7pointlaw.com. I haven't fully vetted this site, so I can't speak to its leanings one way or the other.
Damn it, Zeus.
Come on, Zeus. Mommy's trying to work. Where's your toy?
Tell him to go get the kitty. See what happens.
No, do not tell him that.
That's
Do
not.
not tell him that.
Put me on speakers.
There we go.
No.
Now he can stare.
I'll be
We're
right
not allowed in front of the children, Mitch. No.
All right,
Oh,
lawyers.
no. Put me on speakerphone.
Lawyers, guns, and cannabis, gun rights, and the lawful use of marijuana. With the medical and recreational use of cannabis being tolerated at many levels of government, there is one constitutional issue that remains undecided. Currently, it is unlawful for a user of illicit drugs to own, purchase, possess a firearm at both the state and federal level. Unfortunately, this includes cannabis. Various administrations and courts regarding the use of cannabis in the possession of firearms have made... Hold on a second. Zeus!
Take him,
You
take him out.
Gunny might be onto something. Give him peanut butter.
Working.
Give him peanut butter. That'll quiet him for a while.
Stuff it.
That'd be funny as hell.
Run around the room with it. Throw it yourself. Do
I want to see
something.
Zeus on peanut butter, damn it.
Trying to work. Jeez. Jeez.
Yeah,
Jeez.
Gunny says, give the dog peanut
I'm
butter.
trying not to fucking cuss.
I have a
Gets monetized and stays that way.
theory about what actually happened here.
All right.
I'm convinced that Zeus managed to break into the Hillsdale brand chocolate covered coffee beans.
Oh God, no, he'd be a whole lot worse.
Not Hillsdale again. Gosh darn it.
Wherever he goes.
Woo.
Wherever he goes, everybody knows there's a Hillsdale product behind. Okay.
Wherever he goes, Hillsdale.
Zeus, yeah, absolutely, we know because the farts are like
tagline.
Yeah.
it's like the farts are like nuclear bombs. My gosh.
Yeah. All right. Here we go. With the medical, let me see. Where was I? Thanks to the dog breaking. Will you shush?
Just as we talk about it.
There. All right. Various administrations and courts regarding the use of cannabis and the possession of firearms have made many decisions, but none of the decisions seem to agree with each other. This apparent conflict is picking up steam with the No, you get your toy. You want me? Give me your toy, and I'll throw it, and then you can bug me again in 2 seconds, and then it'll just keep going.
Cough, cough.
Yeah. The things I do for my dog and my viewers. This apparent conflict is picking up steam with the legislation of recreational use of cannabis in 2 states and the medical use of cannabis that is rapidly expanding across the country. Eventually, the Department of Justice, DOJ, and the appropriate state officials will need to draw a bright line, defining the policies in respect to lawful use of cannabis and firearm possession. Within the last couple of years, we've seen a preview of the impending showdown. One of the more seminal cases in May of 2011, when Oregon's Supreme Court tackled the murky issue, Leland Berger, a cannabis attorney in Oregon and a member of NORML's legal committee, decided to take a case involving a denial of a concealed handgun license based on the fact that the applicant was a registered medical cannabis patient. Where's it? Where was I? The justices issued their opinion as follows. In these consolidated cases, the sheriffs of Jackson and Washington counties withheld concealed handgun licenses from persons who met all of the statutory conditions for issuance of such licenses, but who admitted to regular use of medical marijuana pursuant to registry identification cards issued under the Oregon Medical Marijuana Act. When the sheriff's actions were challenged in court, the sheriff responded that to the extent that Oregon's concealed handgun licensing scheme does not concern itself with the applicant's use of medical marijuana, it is preempted by a federal prohibition on the possession of firearms by persons who, under federal law, are unlawful users of a controlled substance. But, okay, if it's legal medical marijuana, then it is not an unlawful user.
Exactly.
Why do they not see this?
Because they're blind as bats, man.
Both trial courts and later the Court of Appeals rejected that preemption argument and held the concealed handgun licenses were wrongfully withheld. We allowed the sheriff's petitions for review and now add this court's voice to the lower courts. We hold that the Federal Gun Control Act does not preempt the state's concealed handgun licensing statute, and therefore the sheriff must issue or renew the requested licenses, emphasis added. So they wound up ruling in favor of the guy getting his concealed license. I mean, it's just, okay, if the states make it legal to use marijuana for recreational or medicinal purposes, whoever uses this now legal substance is not using it illegally, so there should be no reason to withhold their right for owning a gun.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't understand.
In simpler language, shall not be infringed.
Right. Right. So, I don't understand what the problem is here if states' rights are superseding, if state law is superseding federal law, which apparently that is the case, especially in Pennsylvania, then these people should be able to keep their guns.
And in the 10th Amendment.
Yeah.
Not letting it go.
No, I know you're not letting. You're the constitutionalists. Well, I like having you on the show for these kind of issues.
I mean, they're insane. We have governing bodies that are insane.
Yeah.
They do it. What was that quote about insanity? Insanity defined as taking the same action and expecting different results.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, that's what the government does all the time. They always go. They always sweep in and try to regulate, and it never goes well. Well, dummies, start looking at it and saying, "Hey, we did this before. It didn't work."
No, it didn't.
You know, it's why I've only slammed my dick in a sliding glass door one time.
Well,
It didn't have the effect I intended, so I didn't do it again.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, I mean, the more I read these kind of stories and they're saying that the law is conflicting, the more I'm like, okay, it wouldn't conflict if you wouldn't try to write laws contrary to the Constitution.
Right.
No kidding.
And it's really not about they're not trying to be unconstitutional necessarily. What they're trying to do is create a bureaucracy to justify their own existence. That's what the ATF thing on that form is all about.
Yeah.
It's about justifying their own existence. Therefore, we need more money. Oh, taxes got to go up. It's all about treating the population as tax cattle, or in the case of a criminal prosecution, prison cattle, I suppose, for lack of a better phrase, because there's money in that too. You know, it's just a big financial circle jerk.
Yeah.
It's tyranny through bureaucracy. It's not tyranny for tyranny's sake.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And the dog is.
He is really
Razzing.
hyper, and he's pulling me into it because if I don't play with him, he's gonna bark all over all of us.
Give him a little peanut butter.
Oh,
That'll confuse him.
right, peanut butter.
Oh God, I'm dying to see this. Yes, I've just put the constitutional issue aside to watch Zeus and the peanut butter.
Right.
Yeah. Who else said?
Gotta take the headset off so I can put it on the end.
Gunny was the one that was saying, "Give the dog peanut butter."
All right.
I
Peanut
see.
butter? Yep.
Hey, Gunny's a smart man.
All right.
Oh no!
All right. Right. Here we go.
Oh no! Oh no!
Okay.
In the bowl.
Come on.
He's like, I want
Jesus
it now.
Christ!
Okay, there you go. Have fun
All you
with
got to
that.
do is put it in several places so he can keep licking himself and not bark.
That's it. I'm done. You don't get any more. I'm closing the jar.
You're supposed to put a little on his nose.
He's like, more? Mama got the jar. She's gonna give me more? No, I'm not gonna give you any more. You shit butt. Yes.
You shit, but
You see, this method will only hold him for like 2 minutes.
Yes, I know. 2 seconds, knowing him.
what? Can he like swallow the entire thing to your reward? I give my
You
dog
gotta put it
part
up
of a
above his
spoonful.
nose where he can barely reach it.
All right, fine.
Or just like give him a big old spoonful, and that way you gotta watch him like ning ning ning.
Like he's doing now.
Yeah.
I want to see that on a pit bull, please.
This informational stream has been degraded by Publix brand creamy peanut butter in one dog.
Hillsdale brand creamy peanut butter keeps your dog in line every time.
Is he doing it?
Yeah, he's doing it.
Let's see. I'll read some stuff in the chat here.
Oh, yes. Oh, boy, here we go.
Let's see. God, I can't look at the chat.
Oh, it always gets me.
Oh, I can't watch the chat and Zeus at the same time.
Okay,
I'm torn. I'm suffering from a deep inner conflict. That's better than a deep emotional connection, I suppose.
Oh, that's wrong.
Oh, let's see. Progressivism
Right.
used governments to regulate production in the EU, just like progressivism did back in the day. I just thought you should know that. That's from Jay Willie. Hellbound writes, Jay Willie, I actually watched a documentary regarding single mothers in the black community. I'm still trying to find out more about the Clinton crime bill. That sounds interesting, Jay Willie writes to Hellbound. Casual Kelly writes, lap, 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 lap.
Yeah, because of the dog.
Lou writes, nom 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 nom. Kelly
No, you
writes,
got it.
Mitch, the
You
chat
got
is
it.
nothing. A dog is eating peanut butter, damn it.
Yeah, Mitch, you gotta do it like Perry Grip does, the num 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 num.
No, no, I do what I
Nom,
want.
nom, 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 nom,
Nom,
nom.
nom, 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 nom.
No, there's a song that goes like that.
Lou, you don't have
There
constitutional
we go.
authority to tell
Struggling
me how to do it.
justice. Praise Zeus. That's it.
There we go.
Praise Zeus.
No.
All right. Okay, it says any person. Oh, here we go. Although the case was based on federal preemption, the holding still stands that an Oregon resident, as a registered patient, may lawfully obtain a concealed handgun license as long as they meet the other criteria laid out in their statute. However, relatively soon after this decision, the Bureau of Tobacco and Firearms decided to release their own statement in regards to medical cannabis and firearm possession. In that statement, Bureau Assistant Director Arthur Herbert writes in the open letter to all gun sellers, any person who uses or is addicted to marijuana, just because you use marijuana doesn't mean you're automatically addicted to it. Okay. Regardless of whether his or her state has passed legislation authorizing marijuana use for medical purposes, is prohibited by federal law from possessing firearms or ammunition.
That's infringing on your rights, as Mitch said earlier. That is
Yeah,
directly
that-
infringing on your rights. It's saying that if you are this person, you cannot do this.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what I hear.
Well, you know, and these things escalate too.
Yeah.
You know, it's well, you can't do this and have that. Then they're going to add something else, a third thing to that particular mix. You know, they've already tried it in California. If someone thinks, if you're suspected of having a mental illness, then they will come and take your guns in California. That's before any manner of due process has taken place.
Yeah.
And
I'm assuming
sorry,
that's
that's
before
illegal.
I'm sorry that, but I'm sorry. I'm assuming that's before any action is taken to even check.
Well, yeah, that's part of due process. You know, it's like with,
Yeah, I think
with
it
Child
should be-
Protective Services. All they need is an accusation,
Yeah.
and they can come and take your kids. They don't need evidence. They don't need proof. They don't need a warrant. They don't need shit. I mean, really, if you have someone you want to fuck with, call CPS on them.
Well, Gunny says medically dependent, never say you're addicted. Well, there is a difference between being addicted to a substance and being medically dependent on it.
Yep.
Yeah, like I knew somebody who was medically dependent. That did not mean she was addicted, but she was dependent on that. I will not deny that, because some people do have to be dependent on something. It's like being dependent on a nurse for something. It isn't bad, but it's something.
I'm medically dependent upon the Constitution.
Thank you, Fuckwad, who has written the Second Amendment in the chat.
Yep. Emphasis added.
Yep. Hellbound.
See,
Not all mental illnesses are created equally. Not all addictions are equal either.
See, fuck what? I emphasize a different part of the Second Amendment. I emphasize the part where it says security of a free state.
Yeah.
because it's exactly Willie J. Damn.
Just how feminism uses the government to attack the family unity. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I've seen that with my own eyes. That has happened with my family.
Well, I mean,
Well,
it's,
Sucks. It sucks.
this is a clear example of them writing a law and just flying in the face of the Constitution.
Yes.
Because literally, this law should not have been able to be in existence, because there should be no way, if you are using this marijuana legally, to be prohibited by federal law from possessing firearms or ammunition. Period. There should be no reason. You're using it legally.
Yeah, here's the thing, and I'm pretty sure I know where they got some of the information from this. Back in the, what was it, Mitch, the late 60s, early 70s, and everything, there was all these crazy studies that were done and everything. They were considered scientific studies and everything that said that the use of marijuana and everything entered you into an altered state of mind.
Oh yeah, that's about the time with the film Reefer Madness and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I think that actually. I think the movie came out and then people started doing the studies, and there was a lot of confirmation bias going on.
Yeah, there was, and this is where they drew their information and everything. So, people with an altered state of mind, of course, and everything. Of course, people say and everything. Well, they're unstable, so they shouldn't have firearms because they might pose a danger to themselves or others.
Okay, I went and blew up the. I went full screen on the live stream so I could see something written there that caught my eye, and now I come back to normal size, and there's all this shit in the chat for me.
Mitch!
Welcome to the chat.
Okay, fuck what, I gotta agree with you there. The whole thing should be emphasized because it is all valid.
Mm-hmm.
The Second Amendment, to be clear, in case anyone missed it. Jay Willie writes, is constitutionalism a center right-wing ideology? No.
No. It's a
Constitutionalism is a constitutional ideology.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's being actually more centrist.
The Constitution makes no exemption or exception or states no preference towards skin color, gender, political affiliation, anything. It stands on its own. It is a separate idea. It's not beholden to any one side, even a little bit.
That's why I said it's more of a dead centrist, right? Dead flat in the middle. It has no sway either way.
Right. Let's see. Before feminism, didn't the men get custody of the kids if the moms were considered unfit or the couples were getting divorced? I'd like the answer to that one too.
No.
Well, yeah.
No.
Because I'm not sure.
I know.
No. It's almost always been that in the majority of cases, the women got custody of the children because the men were always considered the breadwinners.
My gosh, I had this situation where it was like, one person in my family didn't get custody until the other person gave up the kids, until the woman gave up the kids. Literally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I will freely admit that was not the best situation in her case. So she was not fit to care for those kids, in my opinion.
Well, it's so one-sided now.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That it's insane. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, and if someone knows, please correct me if I'm wrong, but women show a higher tendency to commit the act of infanticide than men.
Oh, yes, they do.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Postpartum depression, the higher rate of SIDS around women, even though they haven't come up with a concrete cause of sudden infant death syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, Munchausen by proxy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
I mean,
yeah, and then that's
I gotta wonder why we're giving the kids over to these women. And basically,
the system is.
I don't buy a lot of that stuff about men should have the kids, women should have the kids. I don't buy either story. I think you judge each case on its individual merits, and you go and you proceed from there.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with that. I think there's nothing wrong with looking further into it and If you need to look into it, absolutely look into it. I don't care how long it takes. Just make sure the kids are in a safe environment.
Well, see, to
Yes.
me, I forgot. If it was in a American Reality stream or one of our other streams where we said that I think the best way, I think it was American Reality. I think
Yeah,
the
it was
best way to
American Reality.
determine these court cases is to take the names of the parents and the sex of the parents off and just list the facts and anything that parent has done during the course of their life being the parent, before and after they've had the children, and before and after, during the matrimony. And take into account any time the law has been called through domestic disturbances, or any time that they have been arrested for, let's say, DUI or any other kind of infringement of the law, and base, whether or not that parent is fit on these facts for this parent that you don't even know whether is male or female. That would be the best way to even that out.
And I would also hazard to say that you might want to also look into medical records, especially because that, for me, that's the biggest trigger for me with the kids, is if they aren't mentally able to do that, then they should be at least monitored with the kid. A little bit. Just a little bit.
Well,
like,
that would
if
lead
there's
back to the
something going
movie.
on.
That would lead back to the movie My Name Is Sam, where the child, the mental deficiency of the father skipped a generation, and the daughter was, mentally retarding herself so she didn't make her dad look like he was stupid, because she was actually, learning at above average in school, but she would come home because her father was mentally retarded and kind of, go down to his level mentally.
She'd fall into a behavior.
In that case, I would think, that the movie made me cry too. In that case, I think that an in-home nurse or tutor should be in the house. You shouldn't, if the child is healthy, okay, physically healthy, then and the parent has a mental deficiency like mental retardation, or they're autistic, let's say, then a visiting nurse or a health caregiver should be in the home, to help that child who is learning at an average or an above average level to compensate for what the parent can't do. Don't take the child out of the house. Make it easier for that parent to raise that child at the aptitude that child is learning.
Well, yes, but I'm also thinking I also think in situations there should also be consideration of, if there's a mental health situation such as anxiety, paranoia, something like that. I don't think that should keep the parent from dealing with the kid, but I do think there should be at least some monitoring or somebody there to make sure things are going okay with the kid, that development is going okay, that the parent is doing well. That I think there should be more checkups with that. Yeah. Especially if they're like more than usual, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, basically feminism.
Yeah.
According to Jay Willie here, basically feminism transferred all the rights to the mother and all the responsibility to the father.
Exactly.
No kidding.
And Thrax, why not just look at all the Greek stories, the folk tales, the like? There are so many stories of infanticide and such. Yeah?
Well, yes.
Well, because they're stories. That's why we need fact.
That, and then you also have to think of how, the stereotypes of, well, I don't even think they're stereotypes anymore. The things where people are just like, oh, you have to take care of this child because you're the father or whatever. Somebody could easily be forging that as well, and that has happened, and people have gotten their lives screwed over because of it, and the wrong people have had to pay for kids that aren't theirs.
Well, yeah, and the state doesn't even the state, when confronted with genetic evidence,
wrong, I don't think.
No, the state, when confronted with the genetic evidence, will still require someone who is not the father to pay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I know there's always a grain of truth, Thrax, but we need hard data.
Yeah. But yeah, I agree with you, Thrax. And Gunny, I know Sean Penn has gone the SJW route, but that doesn't diminish the fact that he did one hell of a job in that role in that movie.
And now I'll never see it because Sean Penn is a piece of shit.
I had to put my personal
Oh yeah.
opinions aside of him to watch, but it's a damn good movie.
I just won't contribute.
Yeah.
You know, voting with my dollar
Right.
until they make that illegal too.
Yep.
Because that seems to be what they want to do.
Wait a minute, Mitch. You can vote with only $1 now.
Give it time.
Anything just cost $1.
Yeah.
It costs $1 just to think about it.
Because I'm not picky, most of the blowjobs I get cost only $1. Hey, grandmothers need to eat too.
Thought it was clean.
Okay, everyone throw up a little bit.
No.
I'm having a small cup of coffee right now. I refuse. That's caffeine abuse. And
We are not
it is
facing the
allowed.
wrath of Maddie at the moment. Precious coffee, it shall not be wasted.
Yeah. Do not waste the coffee, for that is coffee abuse.
Indeed.
Yes.
Just like my caps lock abuse that Sith always jokes with me about.
And you know, to make matters worse is the way things have turned. Essentially, what we've done is we've allowed the state to send in troops to our homes to force us into whatever. You know, when it's CPS, they always send a sheriff.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because let's face it, that CPS person comes in and starts accusing me of shit. It's not going to be pretty for that CPS person.
But that's
I mean, I'm
that's
not I'm not threatening violence, but you know, when there's a cop there, and you raise your voice, well, it looked like it's going to get violent. Better beat him into submission.
Mitch,
Yeah.
that's also I would like to point out, and this may just be being absolutely anal about this, but that's for me. I don't equate the police force with the military. I mean, you can say
Well,
that.
the police force, the way it is now, is
Fair.
I'm not going to say functioning. That's not the right word.
It's
a
too,
de
It's
facto.
too close to the government at this point.
Well, it is the government. It's a standing
Yeah.
army. The police
it's-
force in this nation is too close to a standing army at this point,
Yeah.
It is, and it should.
and that is unconstitutional.
Yep.
It should be close enough for them to monitor it and make sure that nothing shady is going on, but it should be far enough away that it's its own thing. It's not part of the army. It's not part of a force that's connected to the government.
No, the police force, if we have one, I'm not convinced that we absolutely need one, but I do recognize the advantages.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's advantages, no doubt.
I think
but,
I think the police force should operate very much as like a fire department.
yeah,
Don't show up unless there's a call.
exactly.
I mean, yeah, I don't have fucking fire department breaking into my house to inspect the use of my ashtrays.
I mean,
Yeah.
I know that there's police that will just like sit by high traffic areas and they will just sit there and wait for some people to speed. And
Yes.
they'll pull them over for speeding or even in some places it's crazy. They won't be speeding and people will still pull them over. Wasting
Well,
both
yeah.
the officer's time and the person's time.
Well, yes, that's time that the police could be using to, you know, maybe investigate a kidnapping.
Yeah.
You know,
Yep.
you don't have to be a detective to go out and double check some information and maybe try to cross-reference and verify some stuff. You don't have to be fucking Sherlock Holmes level detective to go out and do that.
No, I don't think you do either. You definitely don't. And if you
Yeah.
think you do, then you should not be in that position.
See, here, Willie, Jay Willie, I've heard of and looked a little bit into the Duluth model, but it was a long time ago, and my memories are hazy. I honestly just spend more time on the Constitution. I wish law enforcement would too. Yeah, that's all they have to do. You know, if they really want to be an effective means of enforcing law and doing the right thing, you know, helping people like they always claim they are, start understanding the Constitution.
Yeah.
Look into your own country's history more than just the history books. Look into it, ask historians or something, or ask somebody
and
who knows what they're talking about.
Mitch.
Yes.
Law enforcement officials aren't taught really extensively on the Constitution.
I know that.
They are trained in enforcing and upholding the law of the land.
Right. Basically, they're
the only thing constitutional they have to remember and everything is your Miranda rights. That's it.
They should be remembering just as easily, like, hey, they should at least be looking into it in their spare time if they're working on a particular case, I think.
Okay, and on that note...
No, they should be studying the laws that were infringed upon.
Yeah. And on that note...
It's not their job to decide the constitutionality of the charges. It's their job to make an arrest.
Okay, guys, let me wrap this up so we can continue this in the Discord, because we are way off topic for the stream tonight.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, we are.
Yep. For those of you in Pennsylvania, don't stop with the information that we have given you and discussed about in tonight's Coffee Talk. Please do your own digging. Do your own searches. Find your own facts. Know the laws in your state and the federal laws that pertain to you. That way, when it comes down to your county, your city, and even your small town, you will know how to voice yourself appropriately in order to defend yourself on this issue. Nobody's Second Amendment right or any rights in the Bill of Rights should be infringed upon. That is something that we were given when the Constitution was written. Until next time, whether it's coffee or tea, thank you for spending your time with me on Coffee Talk this evening. And this evening we've had Lou.
Hello and goodbye.
Mitch.
I'm Mitch the Ripper, and this is why we can't have nice things.
And my husband Ronan that popped in close to the end.
Oh, yes.
So, you guys have a good evening and see you on the next Coffee Talk, which should be this Wednesday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, or if you like being a morning coffee nut, on the Morning Brew at 10:30 Eastern Time in the morning. So, see you next time. I think they heard that.